Welcome to our Apocrypha for Slackers study. This study is meant to be an appendix to the 4-part video Bible study available from Christ the King Episcopal Church entitled The Bible for Slackers. Today we will address 2 questions that have arisen from our Bible study. The first is, what is the Apocrypha? And the second is, why is the Apocrypha important? To the first question. The Apocrypha is a collection of books written during the period of the Old Covenant by people of the Old Covenant after the works of the Hebrew Bible had already been written and received. Differently from the Hebrew Bible, most of these books were originally written in Greek, though some Hebrew extracts do remain. And they were collected in the city of Alexandria between the 3rd and 2nd centuries before Christ, and were used in Jewish congregations outside of Palestine and possibly in Palestine during the Hellenistic period. These works allowed the Greek world to come to know the story of Yahweh God, the God of Israel, who was shining his light into the world in accordance with prophetic promise. Now, this collection of books, or the Greek Old Testament, the Septuagint, contained a number of works that were not in the Hebrew Bible. And these are the works of the Apocrypha. These books include things like the 1st, 2nd, and even the 3rd and 4th books of Maccabees, additions to the book of Daniel, additions to the book of Esther, books of wisdom and other literature, and much it has to do with the history of God's people. For example, the works of the Maccabees include the origin of the Jewish festival of Hanukkah, which is not included in the Hebrew Bible. It is read by Christians, however. Second, why are these books important? Well, these books have always been read by the Christian church. Because they were in the Greek Bible, the Bible that was received by the earliest Christians, it was used and spread right along with Christianity. When the New Testament writers cite the Old Testament, they generally cite the Septuagint version of the text, even where this differs from the Hebrew Bible. These works also were quite clear in their expectation of the Messiah King and of the wisdom of God, who would become, in a sense, incarnate, though it is not quite as clear as all that. These works were read by the earliest Christians as an effort to understand the world into which Jesus was born, the world in which Jesus and God the Father and the Holy Spirit acted to bring a light to our fallen humanity. These works are not doctrinal works principally, and they contain a wide variety of prayers and poems and hymns along with history and wisdom. Many of their songs have been sung in the Christian church for centuries. Others have been the basis of prayers in Christian liturgies. But there was never any doubt that these works should be read in the church until the Reformation, when some of the reformers pointed out that these works contained references to acts like prayers for the dead, or the idea of sacrifices in honor of good men. For this reason, they said these ought not to be read in parallel with the Hebrew Bible or the Greek New Testament, but ought to only be studied in a place of study, in libraries, not the church. At the Roman Catholic Council of Trent, the Roman Catholic Church, in light of these complaints, said that these works were just as inspired as other parts of the Old Testament and ought to be included with them. Anglicans followed the example of St. Jerome, who produced the Latin Vulgate Bible, and said that they are fine works to be read in church, but they are not on the same level as the Hebrew Bible because they are not doctrinal. They teach us history and good morals, but not the essence of the faith. And so Christians of all stripes today read these works for inspiration of the poetic sense, and for a better knowledge of the history of God's people who lived in the Old Covenant period, up to the fulfillment of that period in the New, with the birth, life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ.